Everyone for joining us. And I wanted to introduce myself. I'm Debbie Fales. I am the Director of Communications and Marketing here at NavCap. And this is our monthly live call for our brokers. Before we begin, I wanted to just point out that if you have questions, you can submit them as we go along by clicking the Chat with Everyone button on the lower right-hand side of the screen, and we'll either answer them as we go or get to them by the end of the presentation. And just a side note that I am recording this call, and I'll send a link to the recording out tomorrow. So if you miss anything, you can always refer back to recorded link later on. Now I'd like to introduce our guest today, who is Tim Boord. Tim is one of NavCap's founding partners and our current Director of Operations. He has over 30 years in the mortgage industry, and he plays an integral role in underwriting your clients' deals. So he's going to go over our underwriting guidelines and specifically what we look for when approving a loan. Now let me turn it over to Middie Rall, who many of you already know is our Business Development Director. Middie?
Hey, thanks, Debbie. And thank you, everybody, to join the call. I appreciate the opportunity to do that we have each month. And happy to say that we got Tim Boord on the call with us here. Got a couple of things we're going to run through today. Just going to run through some underwriting perspective with Tim, how we look at files, what our goal is, how we want to accomplish these. Also going to run through some specifics and updates to our loan programs this month. Main updates that I've seen really come with the DSCR product. Just some tweaks that I believe that are going to allow us to get more files through the door and closed. And also at the end, going to run through just best ways to get terms and how we can work together. One thing that I want to mention, Debbie already said, but if you have any questions or concerns, please feel free to use that chat box on the bottom right-hand side. And Tim, thank you for coming on the call with us today. If you have any questions specifically for Tim from an underwriting perspective or how we look at the deal, that's really our goal for that call today, and just get you access to that. So I'll get started on the call. Tim, just a little background on him. He's been on the mortgage business for over 30 years, has an extensive background in subprime back in the day and hard money lending in our sphere. He's one of our founding members, founded NavCap back in 2016. He's the head of operations and the lead underwriter for many of your files. And lightheartedly, he decides the fate of many of your deals. So if you have any mail, you can mail that to him.
I hate mail.
Is there anything I missed on your background?
No, that's it. That's it. Okay. 30 years. So.
Yeah. So longer than I've been around.
Yeah, I was going to say that, but.
One of the things he's taught me, and just us as a company as a whole, our underwriting philosophy, I would like to say it leading off, it's focused on common sense lending principles. Please keep in mind, we're a direct private lender, so we're not outsourcing the underwriting or the funding or the docs process for that matter. Everything is done in-house. We've seen this last year, this market has evolved. Right around this May timeframe last year, it's evolved and changed. One of the things that we want to emphasize, we're always looking to evolve with the market in a competitive way, but we also want to do smart, sound lending principle, sound deals with good lending principles to make sure that we're going to be your lender for the long term, and it's just not a blip in the radar. Fourth key factors that we look at for each deal, I'd say whether it's short or long term, is we look at our borrower's experience, credit, property location, and their liquidity. And really, when we look at those deals, those are the 4 pillars that we look at to get your client an answer on what we can do leverage-wise, rate-wise, cost-wise to them. And if they're lacking in one of those areas or 1.5 of those areas, can the other areas, can the experience and location and liquidity make up for a lack of credit? So it's all about Tim would say, levers, and pulling those levers and making sure it evens out. Because frankly, we do want to do as many deals as we can with your borrowers. It's just got to make sense. Lastly, on this, we want to make sure that we're building a business relationship with you, the broker. And I feel like, and I believe we feel like relationships go both ways. So if you have a pool of deals that we come on and we bring in, we close, and they start to show a pattern that they're not performing, unfortunately, I would say that would really, affect our relationship moving forward in the long term. So just one of the things to think about when we're working together. Tim, am I missing anything on our philosophy on that?
No, I was actually going to say that sums it up very well. And you're exactly right. It's I use that term all the time, the leverage, right? So when you have poor credit scores, that doesn't mean we won't do it, but that elevates the risk. So for that risk, we need compensating, whether that means more equity, whether that means that you show us more assets, right? Or you have a lot of experience in the specific area. Those things help offset the risk. No experience, high credit, right? So the experience is a risk, but the high credit score showing that you've handled your credit helps, right? No experience, you're still going to need more. We're still going to need more equity in the deal, but it is that balance that Middie talked about. That's correct. That is how we look at the fix and flip deals and the new construction and multifamily.
Yeah. Moving over to the next slide, just want to touch about the relationships, because truthfully, this industry, real estate and the mortgage industry is truly all about relationships, even down to the title and insurance level, making sure that you have good people in place and good relationships with that. People ask me what sets us apart in our industry or our niche market of lending. Our 90% fix and flip, or a 90-100 fix and flip, or a 75% DSCR, or 80% purchase, or 80% new construction, those are all within our marketplace, right? Those I don't believe those are groundbreaking, new, mind-blowing products. But with that, we believe that we have very competitive products in our marketplace. And what sets us apart is the customer service aspect of it and our ability to turn your files very, very quickly. One thing I want to touch base on, your files, as you bring them in over and over and over, the process should be the same every time. I know, we all have deals that have unexpected complications, title issues, something like that. So yeah, there are outliers like that. But what I'm getting to is, you would put a deal in, we send you the same term sheets, you have the same upload links, we have the same title requests, your fees listed on the title requests, we order title, we order appraisals, and the turnaround time frame is give or take right around 2 weeks. We can get it done shorter. Would love to not have heart attacks every file, but it's going to be the same process that you deal with. Moving forward, we understand, our relationship to you, your relationship to your clients are your lifeline. Our relationship to your client pre and post close is imperative. And, if they have a great experience, that leads to, in some cases, client to client referrals for you and for our business. So it's very important to us. A couple things we think about, even after their post closes, how is their draw process, their servicing experience? Did we set the right expectation for the process to you, so you're able to relay that process to the borrower? I know the draw and the servicing aspect may be on the back burner, but we see individuals switch lenders or brokers or just looking for a change due to those type of problems. So we try to make sure that is the best experience they have possible. And we're trying to make sure that our lending process reflects back in a good way to you. Last note is, we will never back solicit your clients. had a borrower call in today that tried to cut out a broker that we've worked with for, I believe, almost the whole time that we've been in business. And we sent them back to our broker. That's not in our interest to cut you out of that equation. It's just something I want to emphasize on this call. Just a few tips for a smooth underwriting process. Some things that recently, last couple months, have seen just cause slight delays. It didn't kill any files or anything like that. But sometimes our borrowers, whether through identity theft or they're worried about their credit, they may lock their credit lines. So you may want to ask them if their credit lines are locked when they do a borrower signature authorization, because we'll send you over a borrower signature authorization when we send out term sheets. If they could just unlock those lines before we pull credit. Another thing is, to make the underwriting process as smooth as possible, we have a upload link through our web portal. One thing that I would say has caused issues with underwriting is sometimes some of these conditions uploaded aren't legible or clear. JPEG issues give you problems. Other than photo ID, I would ask, the file format be a PDF, just for that sake. And if you have a suspected or a hunch for a weakness in your file or something that you've seen, I frankly believe it's better that we get ahead of the issue out front and see if we can work through it, as opposed to waiting to the end of the file and then seeing if we can or can't make it work and if the numbers work, etc., based on adjustments. Lastly, when it comes to appraisals, just want to make sure that you have the right appraisal contact or for access for the properties. And also please let them know that someone's going to give them a call or shoot them an email that they're going to ask for access to the property, that they may be taking pictures, etc. I know that sounds funny, but we've had a couple of that recently with some files, and the point of access was caught off guard and didn't give them access. So it's just a couple day delay in getting the appraisal back and delaying the loan. Just a last note, if your property is you're looking for a DSCR note for your borrower, just please supply the current lease. For one reason, they're going to look at market rents, and I think it's just human nature. If they see the completed lease that they have for the property, their bracket evaluation for monthly rental may be a little bit skewed because they're already seeing that in hand. Tim, any more tips for an underwriting process?
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Yeah. The only thing I would add to is this great list. When you have a wholesaler or chain of title, you want that up front as well. We can deal with a quick fuse deal, whether we're dealing with a wholesaler, whether the property hasn't been owned 12 months, but we need to see that chain so we can evaluate what's happening with it. We deal with a lot of wholesalers, we deal with them every day, but that when we have to find out at the end, this is a wholesale deal. We do a pretty good job when you see the sellers in LLC, or we can look online, the history of the property. If there's not an agent involved, this gives us tips, but sometimes if we miss that, that's going to slow your closing down because we're going to need to know that information. And if you have a good wholesaler, we deal with a lot of the big ones in our area and in the South, and we work with them every day. It's just we need that information documented, what's happening with it.
Yeah. One thing you brought up before the call, I almost forgot, is you were mentioning, and I've seen too, we get a lot of requests for refined properties that a borrower just bought. In many cases, when you actually get the documentation, they could have bought it straight up, but a lot of cases we've seen that they didn't buy it with their own funds, or they inherited the property, something like that. Just again, we're gonna figure that out through the title, chain of title, and through past HUD. So just the better information we have up front, the better we can set expectations and get your file on a fast track to closing, for sure.
Hey, Mid, if I could jump in here for a second, this is
Sure.
Rick. I'm a director of sales. One thing I want to emphasize is I'm a licensed real estate broker. Tim was a realtor for a period of time. There are some realtors that don't like wholesalers. We're a lender. We don't care, frankly. And we do not treat wholesalers like the boogeyman. So if you have a wholesaler that brings you a deal and needs to get funding, we're fine with that. We don't tell anybody what they can make or what they can't make. What we can tell you is there's certain restrictions as far as how much we will include in our transactions, what would be, financed into the borrower's purchase price. So, we just want to be honest and real about that. Tim, could you expand on that, what you're comfortable with as far as a wholesale fee that can be included in our side of the transaction?
Yeah, I mean, it's typically, we're looking at 10, sometimes 15% we will allow. But going back to what Middie said before, once we develop a relationship with you, even with the wholesaler, and we know that you're providing, a quality product to your investor list, I mean, we stretch beyond the 15% if it makes sense. But typically, you're going to be looking at, once it goes over 10%, we're really going to drill down and start looking at that as is value, because it's important to us.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to move forward to our lending products, where we lend. So we're based out of the Mid-Atlantic. We operate in 38 states, plus the District of Columbia. We don't lend on the West Coast. Anything on the East Coast that we don't lend on would be in New York. And on a fix and flip, we actually can do some New York properties. We tend to stay away from it, though. We also don't do Minnesota, North and South Dakota. Anything west or south of Colorado is where our boundaries are. But we lend on bridge loans. So that is I know we all have different terms for different lending products per your lenders. Bridge loan for us is just lending on the acquisition. So there's no renovation financing aspect to it. We do buy, fix, and flip, buy, fix, and hold. Two different exits, but really the same product. This is for 1 to 4 units. We also do buy, fix, and flip, and buy and hold up to 12. Tim, is it 12 or 20 units?
Oh, fix and flip. We can do up to 20.
We can do up to 20. Okay, thanks. DSCR rentals, 1 to 4, and then 5 to 10. New construction, ground up and rebuilds. That's for that single family, 1 to 4 still. And then it's touched on multifamily, acquisition, renovation. In some cases, short-term refinance. Just depends on the deal if it makes sense again. Want to move forward to our buy, fix, and flip program, buy, fix, and hold program. It's a program that's available for first-time investors. It's a short-term 12-month product. It doesn't have a prepay. It's featured, servicing by interest-only payments. Really, the aspect of this, and I'm sure many of you know this, is the borrower's time is their money. So the sooner that they can get in, complete the rehab aspect of it, and either sell or refinance the property, the less that comes out of their bottom line. It's a residential product, so nothing mixed use, nothing strictly commercial. Minimum loan size is $75,000. The floor rate on this is starting at $975,000. Rehab budget size matters. I believe this also comes into factor with the borrower's experience, but best terms are going to be seen at a rehab budget that is less than half of the acquisition price in many cases. Location matters. To expand on this, we're just looking for properties in residential neighborhoods, something that's in the middle of the road that a large majority of America could qualify for, and put aside personal biases of location, weather, etc., that the majority of America would want to live in, with their family. The terms up to 12 months. We talked about the wholesalers. One other thing is auctions are welcome. There are 2 things that you have to look forward, or not look forward to, but question about an auction is the time frame and access for an appraisal. What we mean by this is, some auctions you have 24 to 48 hours to complete the bid. That's not going to be something we can do. At least need 10 days, week, something like that to get it done if the borrower is motivated and ready to get that moving. And second thing we need is access for the appraisers. So they're going to be able to go in, take pictures of the property, and get a report in. Loan to cost max leverage is up to 90%, 100% of the rehab. Borrowers who meet this top tier, I would say, have completed 5 flips in the last 36 months. They're 720 credit borrower. They have assets that show more than the 10% of the purchase price down. They can show that they have liquidity and another property in a residential neighborhood. The LTARV cap for this program, so the loan to after repair value, it's going to be capped at 75%. We don't lend based on the after repair value, but again, it's just a cap. Moving over to the DSCR rental program, this is long-term financing for long and short-term rentals, really. I would say the short-term rental aspect of it has kind of dried out in the last 4 to 6 months, but it's still available. It's a residential product as well. We go up to 5 to 10 units. 5 to 10 units is slightly lower leverage. I believe the max leverage on that is 75%. For the 1 to 4, we have a 30-year fixed and a 10-1 interest only arm. Purchase, rate and term, and cash out refis. What's new about this product is that if you have multiple borrowers on the entity, we can look at using the highest of the borrower scores, something which is different than the traditional DSCR, which are always using the lower of the partner scores. Going to have a minimum of a 660 score to get in the door. So if you have a fringe deal like that and one of the partners has a higher score and the other partners, are at the 600 mark, something like that, that's something we can use to qualify. Minimum loan size is 100 grand, goes up to 2 million. Rates really have been floating based on the 10-year bond, but they've been the lowest rates that you're going to see are at 7%. We can go full AM or a 5 or 10-year interest-only option. For you, our broker partners, there is YSP available on the back. It's a 2-to-1 upsell. I would just ask that you keep in mind that YSP is going to be paid when the deal gets bought on the back end. Max loan to value for the 1 to 4 is 80% on a purchase and 80% for a rate and term refi. Max cash out is 75%. This product has prepaid penalties. Keep in mind that, the longer the prepaid penalty or the higher the prepaid penalty, the more you're going to get back in rate. But again, we have options to fit what your borrower is looking for. Maybe they're only looking to hold on to it for 3 years. So, last little pieces on this. Taxes and insurance escrows are included. It's not an option with that. We're not qualifying these products based on tax returns or income. We're really qualifying on that debt service coverage ratio and the middle credit score. Also, it's not on here, but borrowers at least need to own their primary experience-wise, and then they would qualify. Moving over to the bridge loan program, this is the short-term acquisition. There's some practical applications I've mentioned before, but borrowers looking to self-fund their renovation, they want to acquire the property and they just have a short window to complete the transaction. They want to pull cash out of a completed property, or they want to buy and stabilize the property. In some cases, we will look to extend a current loan term or help a borrower who is going into that, expiration of their current loan term, but it's got to make sense just from a lender's perspective, not looking to buy another lender's problem or potential problem down the line. I would say these are the easiest loans to complete for all of us, just because we're looking at an as-is value. We're qualifying not on a value add. The appraisals for this fix and flip and new construction, they're coming back in 3 to 5 days. Recently, we've got appraisals back in 2 days, as long as they can get access. So very quick appraisals. Minimum loan size is $75,000. It's a 12-month term. There's no prepaid penalty, no escrows. We don't have a reserve requirement like you're going to see in a DSCR product where they need 3 to 6 months of reserves post-close. Again, they need to have funds in their account, but it's not a hard requirement like a DSCR. Rate and term refi is 70% and cash out max is 65%. These are fixed interest only rates. And again, no income requirements. Lastly, moving to our new construction loan program. This is for financing of new builds, tear down and rebuilds, etc. It's a residential product. Minimum loan size is $85,000. Terms are up to 12 months, 680 plus scores. Loan to cost is at 85% of actual cost max. I would say to see this mark here, you're going to need at least 5 new builds, 700 plus score. Again, a good property in a neighborhood. If they have less than that, probably going to be at that 80% mark, and they need experience in new construction, at least being on the entity for 3 in the last 3 years. If they have 2 in the last 3 years, we could probably make that work. Non-Dutch, which if you're not familiar with that, is paying only on interest drawn. So their payment will grow as they do draws for the new build. It's available for additional origination point. Reasoning for this is really just because we're paying interest on these funds, and it helps offset that cost up front. Something we can build out. And just from a broker perspective, I get a lot of calls, I'm sure you may, about individuals looking to build a $7 million luxury new build. While we'd love to get these done, I just, from what we've seen and what our loan program is geared towards, it's not geared towards those. The market on the back end is very small for that. Really looking for, again, homes a large majority of America could qualify, buy, and live in. Multi-family loan program that we have, short-term financing for 5 to 20 units, purchase, refi, and rehab. Minimum loan size is 250 grand. Max is 3 million. If you have something around that area, would love to take a look at it and see if we can get it done. Terms are up to 18 months. Credit score minimum is 700. The max loan to cost or loan to value, however you look at it, if it's a straight up purchase or a value add, max is 75% leverage. The properties need to be in a major urban area, urban or suburban. Can't really do much in rural areas or areas that have small population centers. And the borrower themselves need to have experience with other multifamilies. You know, if they've done a 6 unit, a 9 unit, and they're looking for a 20 unit, that at least gets their foot in the door that they have experience with multifamilies. But if they're looking to do a 20 unit off the bat, you know, we may be seeing a lot lower leverage if we can do that at all, to be frank. Any questions on our loan programs, Debbie, so far?
We don't have any questions submitted in the chat.
Okay. Well, if you have any questions on those loan programs, please feel free to hit the chat box. Last slide that I have here is just the best ways to get terms. Please see my contact information below this. My cell phone is 443-228-8182, and my email is middie@gonavcap.com. I want to emphasize I am happy to run through any loan scenarios that you have whatsoever, and happy to get you a preliminary like terms on what we can do. I'll talk to the file. I'll talk to underwriting about your file. But if you want a full term sheet from us, we're happy to provide those as well. And it's something that you can show to your borrower. It's transparent about all the loan terms, fee to you, fee to us, and the closing conditions fees. They come up to $19.75 total on the HUD. But, you know, our online process is fully automated. You would log into your member account and you would submit a pre-loan application. Pre-loan applications are not going to run your borrower's credit. They're not going to start the underwriting process. You can complete one of these in less than 5 minutes. It's very easy. One thing that I would ask that you think about, I'll try to explain here, is when you're filling out an application, we already have you approved and signed up as a broker. So we have you and your brokerage approved. So in the application, when it asks the about you and the company section, that you input the borrower's name and their company. I know it may sound redundant, but I just want to make sure that we have everything right when we get your conditional approval sent out, because if you put in your own information, it will have your name and your company as the borrower. So, other than that, if, those terms work and you want to move forward with the file, client wants to move forward with the file, in the term sheet, there will be a link to fill out a full loan application. And our whole lending process, like I said before, you're going to see the same thing every time. We can complete it through the web portal. Docs can be uploaded through the web portal, title company information through the web portal. They can make a payment for their appraisal through the web portal. So, and any gaps in being able to complete the file or any questions or concerns that you have, that's what I'm here for, and I'm happy to help in any way that I can. If you don't have a member account, feel free to shoot me an email or sign up or on our website, gonavcap.com/sign up. I'd also be happy to send you over a welcome email detailing how to sign up as well. With that being said, I know we're 3 minutes over, but again, I'm Middie Rall. We have Tim Boord on here as well, head of operations and one of the founders here at NavCap. Rick Rall, also one of the founders here at NavCap. Again, my contact information, 443-228-8182, and my email, middie@gonavcap.com. If you have any questions, please feel free to either raise your hand, ask, and or hit the chat box. If not, I really appreciate Tim. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for joining me, and looking forward to talking to everybody next month.